Can Gary Russell Jr. beat Gervonta Tank Davis? Jaron Boots Ennis next fight. What's good, everybody? It's your boy Cardinal Red Sports, straight out of Louisville, Kentucky. Let's talk about it. Alright, y'all, so was a lot of antics going on over this past weekend's fight between Gervonta Tank Davis and Hector Garcia. Gary Russell and Meek Mills had some type of argument in the crowd, which ended up, halting the fight, and there was a big melee in the crowd. I don't think there was ever any punches thrown, but it got very close to that. And what that brought out is the apparent beef between Gary Russell Jr. and Gervonta Tank Davis. I'm not sure what started this beef, or why these two guys are beefing with each other, or why, Gary Russell Jr. really doesn't like Gervonta Tank Davis. But it brings up a new question. Can Gary Russell Jr. compete with Gervonta Tank Davis? Now, everybody, I think watched Gary Russell's last fight. I think a lot of people think that it should have either been a draw, or he should have won by like half a point in his last fight. But his shoulder was injured during that fight, and he still put up a heck of a performance. But was that performance good enough to compete with the talent level of Gervonta Tank Davis? Davis is on a whole nother level. I think Davis could move up easily, and his punching power would carry over to the next weight class, and maybe even a couple of weight classes up, maybe even all the way up to 147. But I'm not sure about Gary Russell. And a lot of people think that Gary Russell Jr. could beat Jaron Boots Ennis. And there are a lot of rumors out there like they had some type of fight or sparring session and Gary Russell got the best of them. I don't know the whole story, but, from what I'm hearing, it's not all the way true, And there's another story out there about Gary Russell and someone else as well. But I don't want to get into that right now. But, Gary Russell, a likable guy, good fighter, defensively extremely technical, take nothing away from his defensive game. I can't really judge his offensive game based off his last fight because he didn't throw a lot of punches because of his shoulder injury. So, you didn't get to see the best of Gary Russell Jr. But if you was to put Gary Russell Jr. in the ring with Gervonta Tank Davis, how would that fight play out? Me personally, I think it would be similar to Gervonta Tank Davis's last three fights. I think it would be pretty competitive, but once Tank finds his rhythm and is able to land some power combinations, Gary Russell Jr., I think he's a natural 130, 135 fighter, but Tank's power isn't naturally 130, 135. It's more 140, 147 power. So, Gary Russell Jr. is probably the best technical fighter at 130, 135. I know people might argue that and say that it's Devin or Shakur, Lomachenko, but I think Gary Russell Jr. talent level is extremely high, ring IQ extremely high, and as a technician, he's probably one of the best. His problem, I think, is his body type is limiting him to 130, 135. I don't think he has upside outside of the 130 division, but I think Tank can, because of his power, can move outside of that division and actually have a splash, make a big wave in either 140 or 147. If they got in the ring together, once again, I think the power of Tank and the fact that he has the ability to move up because of his power. Now, what would limit Tank is once he moved past 140, with his size, the fact that he's short, his arms are short, will that work against him or will it work for him if he tried to enter 147 and try to fight, some guys that are around 6 foot tall, got those really long reaches. The problem with that I would have is the fact that Gervonta Davis is a plotting fighter, and his thing is to measure and control distance and gauge power. But when you move up to 147, where there are guys that are 5'9", 5'10", 6 foot, and can move and have that 147 power, you can't just stand in front of those guys. And Tank is not a mover. He doesn't move around the ring a lot. He can if he wanted to, but with his strategy of conserving energy until the later rounds to score knockouts, I don't think that will work at 147. I think it could still work at 140, but at 147, he's going to run into issues with those big, taller, longer fighters. Now, if you put, once again, Tank in the ring with Gary Russell Jr., I think it would be a huge fight. I think it would be something that people want to see. I think the problem with Gary Russell is that last fight, I think, leaves some question marks in some fans' minds. So he's going to need to take another fight before trying to jump in there with Tank Davis. And perhaps that whole little melee was a way for him to get noticed, and try to show that he's interested in that fight. But once again, I think Tank, once he gets the Ryan fight, gets the money out of that Ryan fight, and if he can perhaps get a Devin Haney or a shot at, a Devin Haney fight and score all those titles, there's really no need for him to stick around 130 anymore. After that, 2 more fights, he could be moving on to 140 and bigger paydays. So, y'all let me know what y'all think about that down in the comment section below. Side note, who do y'all think would win between Jaron Boots Ennis and Gary Russell Jr.? Since Gary Russell said he tightened him up in the gym, who do y'all really think will win if those two guys got it on? I would ride with Boots off the sides, but, anything's possible. I love an underdog. Jaron Boots Ennis next fight. Who's going to be Boots' next fight? A lot of talk about Boots right now and the fact that Boots Ennis didn't KO Karen, but I don't take nothing away from Boots because he didn't score the knockout. I actually give him more credit for showing his technical side. The only thing I didn't like that Boots did in that fight was swinging wildly. He showed a flaw by swinging wildly so many times, even though I think he thought, I see an opening and I can knock him out. But dude is so quick and has such a high motor. He basically couldn't catch him and was swinging pretty wildly sometimes. But who will be Jaron Boots in his next fight? Will it be Errol Spence Jr., Terrence Bud Crawford? Could it be a surprise matchup? Will he take on, somebody we're not familiar with? Is Josh Taylor going to move up to 147? Could Josh Taylor possibly fight Jaron Boots Ennis? It's a lot of things on Boots' plate, but I'm hoping Boots get that shot at Errol Spence Jr. next. I'm not sure if it's going to happen. Spence might have seen a chink in Boots' armor. Maybe he can take advantage of it. Perhaps not. Perhaps we get the Thurman fight. What if Thurman wins? Anything can happen over the next year. We've already started off the year with a Rashad Ellis loss. So, hey, it could be a crazy, crazy year. Who do y'all got as Boots' next fight? I'm hoping for something out of the ordinary. Maybe Boots decides to fight Manny Pacquiao. That would be crazy. That would be out of the ordinary. But I'm still leaning on the fact that I think Terrence Crawford might pull that Pacquiao card out of the hat. Y'all hit the like button for me. Share, subscribe. Holler at me on all social media platforms. Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, Twitter. More than likely to get a response on the tube. If you want to collabo or sponsor the show, hit my Gmail, flockofcards@gmail.com. And we are live ahead.
I'm flyest motherfucker alive. Show a player love when I approach ya. Bang on tracks, keep my mic in the holster. Your boy ain't missing, but his face on posters. A young, fresh nigga, bad as fly as a vulture. I stay around dead guys, try and make my bread rise. Potent marijuana, give me red eyes. And I ain't lying, you can smell it on me. I ain't let the bouncer hit it, so he telling on me. Nigga, run along and tell your homies. I don't even know your homie, I can tell you phony. My guest list keeps some felons on it. It's like my lid got helicopter propellers on it. I'm fly. You ain't never heard a track this clean. You ain't never heard a flow this mean. You ain't never seen a nigga this high. You ain't never seen a nigga this fly. Fly than a set of wings. I'm fly than you ever seen. I'm